For this guide, I'll be covering all the units which will benefit from the new relic set in patch 1.5. Numbers are all precisely calculated with damage calculator with an overall of double S tier relic substat with the same substat for all relic pieces and team buffs for no margin of errors at all. I will mainly leave down numbers on the DPS difference as I do not want to drag the video. If I didn't cover units on this video, it means that the new relic set aren't their best in slot and will perform worse instead. For an overview on the relic set pieces, 2-piece Deal Confinement gives 12% attack, which is the same as Musketeer. 4-piece bonus ignores 6% defense of enemies afflicted with DOT, stacking up to 3 times. 2-piece Ash Blazing Grand Duke increases damage dealt by follow-up attacks by 20%. 4-piece bonus increases the wearer's attack by 6% every time the wearer's follow-up attack deals damage, stacking up to 8 times and lasts for 3 turns, but will be instantly removed when the wearer uses a follow-up attack again. Coney Land of Dreams increases the wearer's energy regeneration rate by 5% and increases the damage by 10% for all other allies that are the same type as the wearer. Firmament Frontline Glamonth increases the wearer's attack by 12%, and when the wearer's speed is equal or higher than 135 or 160, they deal 12% or 18% more damage, depending on the wearer's speed. Now for the characters which will benefit from the new relic sets. For Topaz, I will just leave numbers down below, but there's a huge issue with Topaz with the new relic set, is that you want to avoid using her basic attack, as her basic attack counts as a 1 follow-up attack. For those of you who unlock her A2 traces, don't worry, it isn't bad. Your Topaz isn't ruined like Genshin. Her basic attack does help to push Numby action forward, so your Topaz wouldn't have any damage loss. It's actually quite the opposite, as if Numby don't take action, you're missing out on more damage. Here are the numbers on paper, but don't be frightened as it's not a 10.9% damage loss for Topaz with Stellar C, as Numby attack count is 7 and enhanced state is 8. So DPS difference will be way lower with lesser basic attack with the right rotations. In a standard scenario, you get around 5% DPS boost with 2 basic attack and 1 skill for her ulti rotation compared to her fire set. The 5% damage boost will be higher if you use Topaz skill right before Numby launches a follow-up attack. But for team comps with like HuoHuo or Jingyuan who can bring energy regen to the team and units with follow-up attack, you may opt to upgrade your fire set if you're fine with a rough 8 to 10% DPS boost. In most case scenario, you're going to get a 8% DPS boost if you time her skill right before Numby takes action instead of a basic attack. For hyper carry Topaz, skill spamming with skill point positive teammates, you're going to get around 12% DPS boost as Numby attack count is 7. In short, for players who haven't farmed for Topaz or have a tier relic set piece on her, it's totally worth to pivot as fire set isn't universal. You can even go for 2-piece Duke with attack percentage of fire set without any worries, as it will perform better by 3.4% compared to the 4-piece fire set. For those of you who have S or double S tier relic pieces overall on Topaz, it isn't worth the upgrade to a 4-piece Duke unless you're a min-maxer for Topaz. Now for Clara, honestly the new relic set has a 0.8% damage loss compared to 4-piece champion, as her attack count for her follow-up attack is only 1. For players who have a tier relic set pieces, the new relic set will be better to farm as the champion set isn't universal. Unfortunately for Himeko and Herta, they will suffer from massive damage loss with the 4-piece Grand Duke set, as Himeko follow-up attack count is only 4 and Herta follow-up attack count is only 2. I wouldn't recommend players to use it. For Jingyuan, he gets a DPS boost of 3.6% from his skill and 11% plus DPS boost at a hit attack count from his follow-up attack. It's worth the upgrade if you're a Jingyuan main or don't have double S tier relic pieces on him. Now for Kafka, she's pretty interesting as she can use both of the new relic set pieces. Prisoner gives a 4.5% plus DPS boost with 3 DOTs afflicted. For Grand Duke, 0.5% DPS boost for DOT Kafka and 1.2% DPS boost for Crit Kafka. The substat is more important over the relic set piece or team comp, as it doesn't really matter which set you pick, as you may get unlucky with the substat on either set. With Kafka getting a rerun soon, players will definitely want to farm for either both of the new relic set piece over 4-piece lightning, as it's not that universal. For example, the Prisoner gives him a 6.5% DPS boost. If you have a tier relic set on him, then it's definitely worth to farm for the new set. For Luka, he gains 3.6% DPS boost over champion set. Guinaifen, she gains a 7.2% DPS boost compared to her for his fire set. For both Luka and Guinaifen, it's not worth the upgrade at all unless you have 80 relic set pieces on them, and if the new relic set pieces are more universal for your account. Now for the new planets of here, for Glamonth versus Basic Station, I'll just leave numbers down below as there's too many characters to cover, but characters which are not listed will mean that their current best in slot planets of here works way better on them or have no difference from Basic Station. Penacony is the best support set to boost your DPS damage, but you want to only use it if your DPS has the same element as the holder, like Fuxuan with Zilla or Jingyuan with Renmei and Bella for example. If I missed out on any other units, do let me know in the comments and I will do my best to reply to them, and that's it for this guide.